When is a door not a door? When it's ajar. Sorry, that's about as close as I could get to a Jar Jar joke, folks. Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Zareth Prevails. Today we're going to talk about the top 40 teams in the entire game. This is me being as arbitrary as possible. I'm going to be trying to rank them based off of my arbitrary view of how useful they are in the game. Not just GAC, not just Territory Wars, not just our beloved Conquest and Rise of the Empire territory battles, but hopefully in all the different game modes that matter. And it's just me being arbitrary. Like, I don't have like a systematic thing. I'm just like, oh yeah, I'd rather have this team than this team. You know, it's just me trying to organize the universe based on my own arbitrary values. So let's get on with it, folks. You know, I'm not the sole arbiter of truth. I would love to hear what your thoughts are in the comments. You know, keep it respectful, but there's definitely some wiggle room here, guys. Don't you worry. I mean, it's completely true, and there's no wiggle room. I am 100% right. So let's get on with it, folks. First off, we're doing top 40 squads. Last time I did one of these, which was 9 months ago, I did not add Galactic Legends, and I think that was a mistake because most of these teams, like if you don't have Supreme Leader Kylo, then you just have like a Hux team. And like most people aren't just going to build a Hux team for itself. Like for the most part, if you're building a Hux team, you're pretty soon you're going to have Supreme Leader Kylo. Similarly, most people aren't going to be working on like a Boushh Leia team. I mean, I guess if you're working on Princess or Galactic Legend Leia, you might have Boushh, but for the most part, you're going to be working on these characters specifically so that you can have the Galactic Legend. And so these are in no particular order, though I do think Jabba and Leia are probably the most important of the 8. These are the first, 5. I know that they're not 5 of them, but we're calling it top 40. There's 35 other teams, so these are the first 5, and then the rest of them, we'll go over them, guys. So it's the top 40 squads, number 31 through 35. I mean, what can I say about these squads? There's not a whole lot. I know that some of the Ewok purists are probably going to purist me. Because they think that Ewoks are way better. And yes, when they have a Datacron. So none of these squads, I'm not going to consider any of these squads in terms of Datacrons. Because Jawas are way better than this if they have a Datacron. The Phasma team, if they're in Territory Wars, they haven't been relevant for 4 months, 8 months, something like that. Because of Datacrons, the Phasma team would probably be way better, but that's just Territory Wars, and they don't really do anything else in any other game mode, not of substantial use anyways. The Sana team is okay in GAC, kind of. But are people really using it elsewhere? There's one weird Sana use case in Rise of the Empire, and usually you can just use another Galactic Legend to beat that. So, there's all these teams are just kind of like, hey, you have these characters, let's throw them on a team together. You have some Ewoks, just pat them on the head and move right along. So none of these squads are, yes, I gave them an order. I think Ewoks have the biggest chance out of all of these, honestly, to kind of stand out. And with a Datacron, they really could. I mean, they have, in fact, destroyed a lot of Galactic Legends. I don't really disrespect Ewoks. There's a lot of other off-meta teams that are going to be as effective or more effective than the Murder Bears. When given the opportunity, and in my opinion, it takes less investment for all of the rest of them. So, anyways, let's move on to the ones that are a little more consequential. So, let's see, Geonosians. I think these were one of my lowest ranked last time, and I've kind of improved them just a tiny bit, just because who knows why, guys? Like at the end, who really cares? Like they're not that good. They are like they have a mission in Rise of the Empire, which is totally skippable because it's a special, or it's just a combat mission. They do have a pretty interesting Omicron in Territory Wars for Poggle. Decent, you know, you can kind of use a lot of those characters as pilots, and like the Brood Alpha is a good plug and play character, so there's some uses, but you know that they're I know there are uses, and they are few. I mean, it used to be a really good squad. I wouldn't mind if they got some kind of a boost. The Wookiee team. The problem with the Wookiee team, guys, is a lot of times you can't really shake free any of the really good Wookiees that make this team decent. And honestly, they're like one character away from being pretty good. Like, just replace, you know, Smuggler Han, and probably just get rid of Clone War Chewie, and like Gungi from the Clone Wars and Bad Batch, you know, the Wookiee Jedi, and you know, like just. Then you could put someone like Vander Chewie on the team, or Chupio, but as it stands, that team doesn't really warrant anything. Bad Batch, I'm kind of sad to have them this low, guys, but it's like, really, in the end game, they just suddenly stopped being usable. It used to be, oh man, this is a target-rich environment for these guys at GAC. They destroy everyone, and I find I don't use Bad Batch, like, at all, ever, these days. It's really sad. They went from being super like cutting edge and cool and like, oh my gosh, there's so many different ways to use them, and they have all these cool mechanics, and you know, to like, yeah, we don't use them. Like there's just not much of a use. It's sad, honestly, kind of disheartening. There's also so Phoenix is a weird one. I feel like Phoenix is going to be able to, at least in GAC, beat a lot of the teams above it. But at the same time, Phoenix also, like, what are we using them for? Like, there's a Relic 8 mission for them on Rise of the Empire. That's fine. You know, they're going to counter a lot of things. Like, one of their best teams that they counter is Adrad, which is fine. Early game, it's one of the best squads because they're pilots, and they'll beat a team like Inquisition, which is a really nice one, assuming, you know, datacrons depending and all of that stuff. But, you know, at the end of the day, the Phoenix, like, there's just a lot of other good teams out there that are probably going to curb stomp them. Honestly, like, yes, they can be kind of strong. I mean, if you think about it, if you're talking about like the top 22 teams in GAC, well, I guess you'd have to ignore all the Galactic Legends. But I mean, this isn't that far off of that group. I could put them on defense and still be kind of a conundrum for someone, depending on what they placed. And otherwise, what else are they doing, folks? Like, what other game modes are they really dominating? They could do okay in Territory Wars, but especially in the end game, not so much. Then we have Saw. Saw is better than I thought he was. He's not, and if you put, the thing about Saw is you want a good Datacron. If you don't have a good Datacron, then he kind of struggles. But then it also depends. Like you put Cara Dune on the team, you put Kyle Katarn, you can put Krex on the team. You know, Captain Rex from the Phoenix squad. You can put Drogon on the. There's a ton of really good characters that really boost the stock on this team. You can put Baze, and I mean, not sure it's not that great, but like, you can add a lot to this team and make it better. You just need the right opportunity. And so, you know, this is probably, I feel a little cringe about putting it a little like this low, but a good Saw team can really mess with people depending on what season it is. Now, let's see, Tuscans. Yeah, I mean, I feel like they just keep falling a little bit. In the world of turn meter, I'm surprised that they're really not doing as much as you'd think that they would do a little bit more. The problem is, they're just not needed for anything. Like, yes, they're a nice tool to have in your tool belt and all of that, but You know, a lot of seasons I'm like, I just never used them. Never used them in GAC. And then, you know, unless they're used for a feat, then you don't really need them in Conquest. You don't really need them at all in territory battles, like in any game mode. Unfortunately, they're a cool squad. And in GAC, like I said, they're useful. They're just, you don't need them that much. Aiden is kind of the odd man, odd woman out these days in the you know, 5v5 realm, at least. In 3v3 she still has some cool stuff, but I mean, the thing is, Imperial Remnant are taking a lot of her favorite toys, and then Imperial Troopers are probably still a little more useful overall than she is, and she'll just a lot of times go hang out with the Imperial Troopers. She just ends up, you can see I just put 4 troopers here to kind of illustrate, yes, you could add more troopers, and she can be very strong with the right troopers, but that, like, does that strength really matter that much? I mean, she's okay. She's okay in GAC, like good in GAC, but I mean, with it, she still gets beat by like Wampa quite a bit. You know, or like Bam, Beskar Mando team, or Adrad just completely curb stomps her. She went from so promising and so exciting to like, yeah, we could probably find something that's a little bit better, you know, as our understanding of squads continues to grow. That happens. Okay, so here's one of the overlap ones, guys. Maul with Gar and ISC. Canderous, so one of their biggest problems is like, who's the 5th? If you're gonna put Django here, oh, that's great, he's cool, he's a Mandalorian, but then you don't have a trench team, which a trench team is pretty good and obviously ranked a little bit higher. It is good. They'll delete a lot of stuff. In 3s they do some cool stuff. In 5s, I mean, sure they do good. You know, Conquest they could probably do okay. I'm not saying they're terrible. I just you also need someone who can jumpstart them, and you need them all to be Darkside and Empire or Mandalorian, and that really just kind of limits who they can go with without really tearing up a lot of other teams. At least with their good characters, like Watt would be a wonderful addition to get their turn meter jump started, but Watt is not Empire or Mandalorian. Let's see. Yeah, so they kill some stuff. They really are strong, and I'm sure that some people are going to be real frustrated that I put them this low. And I don't see them being incredibly useful. Like, what Galactic Legend are they always killing that are always on defense? I just, you know, and then what other game modes do we need them in other than GAC? So let's see, the Dash team with Vander Chewie, you know, this is a lot of fun. Hondo, they do a lot of cool stuff. They're reviving, they're doing all the cool stuff. The problem, of course, is that it's Omicron based. You need that Omicron for GAC, and you want it for both Dash and Hondo. It's an expensive team, you know, with Hondo and Dash both getting their Omicron. You have to gear up Vandor. Yes, they're unkillable early game. This team is really nice because there's not as many threats to stop revives and everything, so you just kind of live forever because the AI doesn't like to target Vandor for whatever reason. So yeah, it does some cool stuff. It really does. But are your resources better used elsewhere? Maybe. And they, like, what are they killing, you know, in the mainstream stuff? Like, they kind of, you know, every once in a while it's like, oh, hey, Wookiees took, like, they got a really cool Datacron. And it turns out Dash with Honda was, like, a really good counter to them. And so their stock rose. But then as soon as the Pets team kind of disappeared on defense, because everyone was placing it, the Dash team kind of took a hit. And yeah, they were nice. The Dash team with Beskar Mando was pretty good, but then this whole team is good, but it's reliant on those Omicrons, and so they're not that great other places. Like they can do okay, and you know, to Conquest they can do fine. That's fine. Whatever. They're okay. They're merely a fine team. You know, early game they're much better than they are end game, I suppose I should say. And then Wampa's this high just because of how useful Wampa is for a long time as just a GAC character. And so you know, but for a long time, early game, you get Wampa up to Relic 5, throw an Omicron on him, a couple Zetas, and you'll be good to go for like a year. You'll kill a team every single GAC in 3s and 5s, and eventually you'll come to think that Wampa is invincible, and then you'll face someone who knows what they're doing, and you'll discover Wampa is not actually invincible, you poor thing. Okay, so Imperial Troopers, a little bit higher than Iden, of course. They do fine. They do well. Depending on which build you have, like, you'll be able to kill Galactic Legends. You also starting to get into the realm where they have multi-use functionality in a lot of different game modes. Where, like, Conquest, that they'll if you can kind of, you can throw Watt in there, you can do something to get a little bit more turn meter. You can throw Iden in there, you can kill Galactic Legends in GAC. Even in Territory Wars, they'll jump in and kill like a Geonosian squad with the Poggle Omicron. So they do a lot of stuff. It's just it's harder and harder to find a place for them. And similarly to Iden, like, it seems like the team just got a lot more diluted when you couldn't use Moff Gideon anymore because he had to go with Dark Trooper Moff Gideon. So, they're good. They're not great. They're top 20-ish. I mean, after Galactic Legends and all that. But let's see. Night Sisters, they're a lot of fun, folks. You need, just like Imperial Troopers, actually, you need both. You need Troopers for the Assault Battle, which actually can't be understated because there's 2 Assault Battles that they can get max tier on. Night Sisters get 1 of those battles. They also just punch way up. They do a lot of cool stuff, and one of the cool things about Night Sisters is you can also just take like Daka and Zombie and throw them with a different like Galactic Legend, and suddenly you just have a lot of functionality with that team as well. The Night Sisters are also really cheap. They're all really they're also Conquest monsters. They're so strong in Conquest. Really fun squad. They're fun too. That's another thing. Okay, Afra, she kind of took a dive, folks. I think I had her in the top 10-ish in the last one, like 9 months ago, and part of that was probably just because she used to have a really cool like Datacron, which and I was like, oh, and she also kills Jabba, which she still does. I've killed a lot of Jabbas this last season, Datacron depending, but the problem with Afra is, like, she'll probably climb on this list quite a bit if she has some kind of a dark side droid tank to go on the team, but until then, she's not needed for anything in this game other than a couple random Rise of the Empire territory battle missions, which, they're fun. And that, yes, she kills Jabba sometimes if you put a lot of Omicrons on them. Lots of investment in this squad for ultimately a luxury result. Like, most people have something that'll take Jabba out anyways. You don't need Afra, and Afra's a little sketchy on that fight anyways. So, yes, she's good. Yeah, she'll take out other teams as well in GAC, but then her stock falls pretty dramatically. Like, she's just an inherently very strong team, but her stock does fall once she kind of once she stops being amazing in GAC, and she's not even that amazing in GAC. Let's see, Qui-Gon with Kelleran back, whatever mix match you want to do, mix and match. Like, you can have Qui-Gon with Kelleran in GAC, you can have Kelleran on defense in Territory Wars, and this team hits pretty hard. It does a lot of cool stuff. The Omicron on Kelleran Beck is really good. The Omicron on Qui-Gon is kind of aging, but with reinforcements like Kelleran Beck, you can throw in a lot of different characters and squads. The squad has been surprisingly resilient to the test of time, and it's really good in PvP and or just in general with PvP, and we'll see if it continues to age well. I mean, it is aging, certainly, but Kelleran Beck has certainly made this team a lot more interesting. General Grievous, I actually had him in the top 10 last time, and he actually got a really nice addition to his team in the form of Stap. And I guess we'll see. This is one of those reads that is like, well, we don't really know how he does with Stap yet. Not really. Stap with his Omicron looks really good. Also, Stap looks almost criminally useless in every other game mode. In GAC, he looks really strong. The reason I would put this as 16 is not just because Stap makes them really strong in GAC, which it looks like he's going to be really strong in GAC. The other reason is Conquest. Again, like Conquest just tends to be one of the most central and important game modes in this game. Whether you like to play it or not, it's just something you need to take into consideration. And so, you know, not to mention, if your early game in your guild is on Geonosis, the Grievous team is actually going to kick a moderate amount of ass for you. So, yeah, lots of interesting stuff to be said about the Grievous squad. Unfortunately, I don't think it's top 10 anymore. I don't know if it was last time, frankly. I've always had a soft spot for the Grievous squad, so probably always just going to rank it a little higher. Wow, a lot of blue here. So, let's see, the Zori team. I think this climbed a little bit since last time. This is the best version of it if you don't have some kind of datacron changing the squad comp a little bit. But, you know, this is good. It requires a couple Zetas. And I think the biggest condemnation is, what are you doing with it unless you're using it in GAC, which GAC, it's a great use for it. Territory Wars, what are they doing? I mean, it can do some cool stuff there as well. And then it kind of just full stop. So, like, maybe Rise of the Empire, you could use it. You could use it in a couple places. I don't think it doesn't really translate well to the rest of the game. The Omicron on Zori, the Omicron on Rose are kind of expensive for them to be dominant in GAC. But I mean, they do kill a lot of stuff in GAC, that being said. Like, lots of really strong teams. So, they're fine. They're good. How are you? So, Bounty Hunters, this is one of those foundational teams that it keeps getting lower and lower. Like, it's weaker and weaker as time progresses. Yes, you can use Bounty Hunters to kill Lord Vader. I did it twice last night. It was marvelous. And, that's not going to happen very often anymore. The way people are building their teams, the way things are happening, the way datacrons are kind of trending, that's just how we have less and less use for them, and we keep not getting new bounty hunters that are going to substantially buff that squad. And so, yes, the bounty hunters are still good, and early game they are a godsend. They're so strong. They are pilots for a lot of different really strong fleets. They're all requirement characters for all the different Galactic Legends. I don't think there are a single bounty hunter out there that isn't a requirement character, at least for some event or other. I think Grief and Mando, you could say, like, well, they're requirements, but you don't have to have them that high gear to get them to get the Bando team unlocked. But otherwise, you want most of them to be pretty high relic, and in fact, you're required to have a lot of them pretty high relic. They're a very strong and resilient team early game and mid game, and then end game they just kind of fall off a cliff unless you're doing something like killing Lord Vader with it's like a 30% shot at doing it or something. Unless it's me, and then you have a 100% win rate like I did the other night. So I might be fancy. Just heads up, folks. So Adrad is one that actually I ranked way lower than this last time, and now what I'm discovering, folks, is I was kind of wrong about Adrad. Adrad is countering so much stuff, guys. So, of course, if you have bays on the team and datacron dependent, we just say this all the time, but they kill a lot of stuff, like including Inquisition, including Iden teams, like almost every Iden team, regardless of datacron. They just do a whole lot of heavy lifting. They keep destroying. They also counter the Dark Trooper Moff Gideon team, actually, when there's not an obscene datacron on the squad. They do a lot of damage against a lot of Empire teams. They've stayed very relevant, in fact, at taking those out. Baze has been a revelation for this team, and in fact, for a lot of teams. You want Baze for all the... Suddenly, there's 3 really strong teams that want Baze, in the form of Adrad, and, you could also go with Mon Mothma, though. I didn't even list her as a squad in this one. But like Saw, Leia, the GL, and the Adrad team, they all really want Baze because he's magic at this point. So that that their stock keeps rising. Not to mention they're all required to be to be farmed or ready or whatever for the profundity. Obviously not Bays, not K2SO, but if they're the first three on this list certainly are. The Bo-Katan Mandalore team, I hope I didn't list them too high. The problem is, I mean, I don't know if it's even a problem. Like, they're high investment. They cost quite a bit to get to that point. The BL relics and stuff. They do help you unlock the Mandalore system, which, as of right now, they don't have a special mission on Mandalore itself. And it's a little bit disappointing, frankly. I'm hoping eventually we'll get like a character node unlock on there, but right now it's just a big fat goose egg. And otherwise, so it's nice though. It is nice for endgame teams to do that. And then you kill Lord Vader teams at a really high rate, even without the cool stupid Datacron that they had. And you take out a lot of other teams, guys. She does kick quite a bit of hindquarters. You just have to make sure you're not walking into a team that's just going to completely decimate you. It is a fun squad. I don't know if it should be top 12. Probably. It's pretty good. Starkiller keeps failing, guys. Keeps falling. So Starkiller is like, you can use it in Conquest a little bit. The problem is Starkiller is fueled by his really awesome, like, best in the game Omicron, which is for GAC, and so in GAC it's very usable, except he doesn't kill as many Galactic Legends as he used to. In 3s he's still killing a lot of stuff, because you don't have to tie him to Jedi or Sith. You can just do unaligned Force users, so you can throw him with like Malicos and Seer, and they just suddenly have a really strong squad. Otherwise, yeah, they're not killing. He hasn't viably killed a raid team for like a year at this point, so we got to demote him a little bit. Does he kill Supreme Leader Kylo? Sometimes. If you put Vader there, sometimes if they don't have too much offense and stuff. Yeah, I mean, what else do they kill? They kill a lot of like B teams. They kill most of the squads that you're seeing here, but some other teams have got to shove them aside. They're kind of no match for instance, this Seer Malicos team, guys. Kills lots of stuff in GAC, kills lots of stuff in Territory Wars, or at least sits on defense very prettily there, and just in general really strong. It is high investment. It's a lot of weird kind of some semi-luxury characters. Like Seer you want and need at Relic 7 for the Zepho unlock and everything. Malicos is a Conquest character that I guess you could classify as luxury, though he is just destroying Galactic Legends left and right. Fulcrum Ahsoka is 100% luxury. And let's see, the character that I'm blocking here could be Maul. It could be almost, I'm kind of glad I'm blocking it. It could be any character that's, half decent. Crew, Maul, Ninth Sister is probably the one I used for this one, but yeah, I think it makes top 10. Like, it's good in GAC, good in it's good in GAC, it's good in Rise of the Empire territory battles. Frankly, it's good in Territory Wars, good in Conquest, actually. Does a lot of really cool stuff. So, very strong squad. Is it a little bit luxury? Sure, but I would say it's one of the top 10, like, strong squads. Trench is another squad that I feel like people overlook a lot. This is the one I'm probably going to get the most beating for, putting it in the top 10. But the one that I'm blocking is Watt, folks. You really do want Watt on this team, and a lot of people want to use Watt elsewhere. I get it, but don't let your feelings be controlled by don't let your actions be controlled by your feelings, I guess I should say. It is an amazing Territory Wars team, and I know that not everyone loves Territory Wars, neither do I, actually, but it is a really good Territory War team. It also it holds its own in GAC. It does some cool stuff, not transcendent, not magic exactly, but it still does some decent things, especially if you have a decent Datacron with them. And they're also used, like they can auto on Dathomir, for instance, if you have them all Relic 7, which is nice for the territory battles, and you could use them in Conquest. I don't know if they'd be world beaters there, but they do some cool stuff. It's a worthwhile squad, folks, and, you know, I think that I recently said, and everyone thought they'd get a comment in, whether it was good or bad, and agreeing. I said that the Trench is arguably more important than Malicos, despite the fact that I love Malicos. I just think that he's more vital to territory wars than Malicos is to GAC, and you know they both do. They're both complete. They're not completely vital characters anyways, but and I tend to like Malicos better. I mean, he rocks, literally, and Trench is just a freaking spider on a you know, on the water spout. We can just wash him out, man. Okay, so CLS is he's also losing traction a little bit. Amazing conquest characters, honestly. Like they haven't, even in GAC, they're still doing some really interesting stuff, but they're not the world beaters they used to be. They're still, I mean, they're still strong in all of the territory battles, still strong. I mean, to be rated this high, they have to be useful in all the different categories. And yes, they still are. And you typically don't want to break this team up, even in the late game. Surprisingly, I mean, sometimes you will, but yeah, they're a good squad still, folks. The Treya squad with Savage. Obviously, Savage is GAC only, but the squad itself is relevant in all the game modes, and that's from early game all the way to late game. They just destroy most of the things they come in contact with. So very, very, very worthwhile squad to invest in. And you know, Savage can come later if you want, or you can, you know, use him early and have him solo things if you want. That's never been my style, but apparently people seem to think that's really neat to do, and it doesn't kill my soul entirely to tell you, so I'm telling you about it half-heartedly. Dark Trooper Moff Gideon, this might be a little too high ranked. Like, we just came off of a time period of unprecedented domination by this squad with a really good Datacron, and so that may be coloring my own perspective just a little bit. Let's just be real, it probably is a little bit. That being said, the way it controls, like, remember how I was talking a little bit about the day and age of turn meter squads with like Tuskens. I'm surprised the Tuskens were rated so low. These guys do that, like, very similar things to Tuskens. Obviously not the exact same, but they really mess with teams that are reliant on small iterated bursts of turn meter. It's just like CLS gains 5 turn meter, 5% turn meter, 5% turn meter, 5% turn meter, and Dark Trooper Moff Gideon is like, yes, that's awesome, as opposed to like fighting a team that gains like 50% turn meter bursts. I mean, they still get penalized, but not nearly as just destruction, not nearly as much destruction as like a CLS squad, an Iden squad, a lot of different squads that gain those iterated small pieces of turn meter. And so it just seems like such a strong counter in GAC. In territory wars, maybe it's a little less useful, though the Omicron makes that squad way better, or multiple Omicrons do. And then they also, there's a lot of turn meter gain on certain conquest squads, and you know, they just seem a little bit more like the future, frankly, guys. Not to mention, most of them can be used in the current Endor raid, which obviously that's about to disappear here, but it is a very strong squad all the same. Should it be a little bit lower? Maybe. Maybe, guys. Okay, so the final squads, folks. We have General Skywalker and the 501st still taking out most of the teams that we meet and see. Yes, it was number 1 last time. It is now number 5. And I've never really liked this squad. I know that some content creators really love it. So some people want to marry it. You know, if you love it so much that they just figure they may as well. And I guess I have a hard time arguing with people being crazy. But the thing is, General Skywalker is doing a lot of cool stuff still. on some levels. He just drops so many banners on so many different squads, and he just has so many weak points at this point. It's like, oh yeah, like, he's great until you just use, like, any number of characters to just auto-kill him, and then he's just done. So, our early game, pretty strong squad, ignores revives, does some cool mechanical stuff. Not really the cream of the crop anymore. Guns. Who knows what the heck even kills them, guys? And we won't even know for 4 months, because pretty soon they're going to have an overpowered Datacron that's going to completely terrorize the meta. We'll just have to use some really strong Galactic Legends, basically. I don't even know, guys. Like, before we added the Datacrons to them, they were already killing all the squads that weren't Galactic Legends or, like, Malgus, basically. So Malgus, conveniently, is number 3, and this team has just terrorized the meta for so long. At this point, it's probably more of an offense-only squad, but man, they kill a lot of stuff. Just destroy it. The thing they have to keep in mind is this team destroys a lot of, like, meta teams that have had their Datacrons on them, and yet they still, without a good Datacron of their own, they're still taking it to those squads. So really strong squad on offense. They're very resilient, do a lot of cool stuff. Also requirements for different ships. I mean, there's 3 pilots in there. It's madness, just pure madness. And the investment isn't that much if you can get your grubby little hands on Malgus. We also have Iden. No, it's not Iden. That is Third Sister. That is jeez, man. There's the Inquisition, man. It's a really strong squad. Really strong squad. The pinnacle of squads on some levels. It is very challenging to get. That represents 7 different characters that all have to be at least Relic 5, most of them Relic 7, and then you probably want to get them to 8 eventually for the Rise of the Empire mission. But man, they are a cheat code in Conquest, cheat code in Rise of the Empire. Usually they'll beat you can use Inquisition on every single node in every phase of Rise of the Empire. They're amazing in territory battles, amazing in GAC. Just top shelf, amazing squad if you can get them. Yes, huge investment, but they pack a punch, man. They'll kill Galactic Legends. They'll kill non-Galactic Legends. If they don't have anything to kill, they kill themselves. No, that's a lie. That's I can't back that up. So finally, we have the bane of current GAC, folks, and he's just real stupid and kills everything in every game mode with just him and a scrub high relic character. And in GAC, it's like he just kills all the things, and I've told people he is a Galactic Legend just for offense. Like that's the level we have to treat him. And it's kind of discouraging if you want GAC to be more relevant, but it's like one squad automatically gets killed by Bane. So it just shrinks the board. If everyone has Bane, then everyone's board is one Galactic Legend smaller. And that's it, folks. He is a really good squad. Like, go get Bane. I did. He's amazing. It's just, I hope GAC gets fixed and Territory Wars gets fixed, because that will be nice. Please, CG, please do that. Alright, I'm pulling the plug. Video went longer than I wanted, as usual, but I love you guys. Thank you all so much for watching, and remember that in all things, Xerath prevails.